Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Michael Hunter, the American heavyweight contender, has called out Dave Alen online. And this happened in a thread where Alen had posted his personal fitness transformation on Instagram. And in the comment section, Michael Hunter told Dave Alen, or said to Dave Alen, "Let's dance at White Rhino." That's obviously his Twitter handle. And Dave Alen, in that same comment thread, responds to Hunter directly saying, "Big fan of you. Lot of respect for you, think you may be a few levels above me right now, but you never know what's going to happen in boxing." And then the thumbs up emoji. So a couple of things to sort of unpack from all of that, and I'll come to the Dave Alen transformation thing a little bit later on, but first, Michael Hunter calling out Dave Alen. You have to ask the question, why is he even sort of bothering to call out Dave Alen at this point? He is above that level of fight. But I guess now that he's not with Matchroom, he's sort of out of the fold, a free agent. He's looking for fights, he's looking for activity, and perhaps he sees Dave Alen as a tune-up of sorts just for a payday and some activity before the next thing sort of comes along. But for me, you know, it would be a real shame if Michael Hunter ends up dropping down to sort of Dave Alen level. And no disrespect to Dave Alen, but he's proven, you know, he's English level, maybe British level at a push, but he is nothing above that. Michael Hunter has been in with the likes of Sergey Kuzmin. He's beaten Martin Bakole also and had a draw with Alexander Povetkin. He's operating at a much higher level than Dave Alen, so really he shouldn't be calling these guys out, but perhaps needs must in this time where he knows that Dave Alen is effectively a free agent, but who would be putting on a card? Because Dave Alen isn't really with Matchroom, he works for them pretty much on a fight-by-fight basis, and if you were to put a card on, who's the promoter for that one? You have to ask that question. But for Dave Alen, you know, he's sort of said the right thing, and at least, you know, you got to give him credit for being honest with himself, saying that Hunter is levels above him right now. And he's right, because that is completely true. And Alen has kind of not wanted to get back in there unless it's the sort of right fight. But you have to ask the question, well, what is Dave Alen actually doing right now? Because a while ago he turned down a fight against Daniel Dubois. Perhaps that was the smart thing to do, but there was decent money on the line, reportedly £250,000, but he asked for much more. There was talk recently he was going to face Hughie Fury. And for me, that fight worked well for Hughie Fury as a higher level of tune-up than the sort of opponents he'd been dropping down to, you know, the Chris Norads of the world, etc. But Alen, he didn't accept the money, even when Hughie Fury was willing to give some of his purse to top up Alen. So if Alen is turning down the likes of Hughie Fury, what level and where's he going to return at? It's a big question. But just getting to the personal transformation, and Dave Alen, as we know, can be a bit up and down in terms of his dedication to the sport, not training, not sparring, not preparing properly. But he's in some of the better shape of his career, and there's no fight scheduled right now. So, you know, you can sort of say, you know, he's doing it the wrong way round. When he's had fights, he hasn't put the effort in, but now he doesn't have a fight, and he is putting the effort in. But he's saying under 18 stone, running a minimum of 5 miles a day, and also eating better food. So Dave Alen, yeah, it's an interesting case because with a record of 18-5 and a couple of draws on the record, hard to see where he's going, what he's going to do. Maybe he thinks he's going to take some sort of lower level, perhaps area level or English level in the United Kingdom, but that's not going to pay him the money that he no doubt wants. If he's knocking back Hughie Fury offers, which was apparently a decent offer, you know, what's he willing to take these days? The American heavyweight prospect Jared Anderson has advanced to 5-0 following a first-round stoppage of Hector Perez in Las Vegas, and this featured on one of Top Rank's ESPN cards, you know, their bubble cards as it were. So this was never going to be a tough test for Jared Anderson, and it was all over inside a round, half a round or so. He was pretty much all over Perez from the outset, landing good body shots, thudding right hands, and ultimately it was a good sort of sequence starting with a body shot and ending with a right hand that dropped Hector Perez. He looked like he might be able to make it back to his feet by about 8 or 9. He started to shake his head while he was on the canvas, and the ref sort of waved it off at 9. So another stoppage for Jared Anderson. He looked good in there, but it's really hard to take too much from this performance given the level of opposition was relatively low. And he is a prospect. He's getting these seasoning fights in now, just 20 years old. So we're probably going to see more of the same in the next year or two for Jared Anderson as he slowly works up the levels. But I would like to see him matched a little bit tougher, and perhaps against some opponents. And this was pointed out by a subscriber, Tim, who made the point that Jared Anderson has been facing a lot of guys around 6 foot and under, and it'd be good to see him in with some guys at least of his height, around 6'4", 6'5", because if he's going to contend in the heavyweight division, those are the opponents he'll be facing at a much higher level. And there's several journeymen running around that they could line him up with that are of that height. But overall, decent performance by Jared Anderson, his second fight in these bubble cards, and no doubt he'll probably return again in another few weeks. Meanwhile, someone who does have a fight on the horizon is Andy Ruiz Jr., posting to his social media that he's staying active and that training camp starts next month. And Ruiz recently agreed to train with the noted trainer Eddie Reynoso, who has a good stable of fighters, including Canelo Alvarez, so that will be his first training camp in that environment since splitting with Manny Robles. Who he will be fighting, it's not confirmed, but it is expected to be Chris Arreola, although, Manuel Cha has been making a campaign on social media in recent days, but perhaps that's come a bit too late. We shall see. It's probably going to be one of the two, but I would expect it's going to be Arreola, given that seems to be one of the worst kept secrets in boxing. Meanwhile, Alen Babic, who's out training in Portugal with Dillian Whyte, says he's still trying to get on Whyte's August the 22nd undercard, posting to Instagram, "Working summer. I'm in Portugal helping Dillian Whyte prepare for Povetkin fight on 22 August. My team working really hard on getting me on that undercard. Tom Little said he don't want that smoke, so the search continues. Team Savage will be there." And there is one spot left open on that card. It's a 5-fight card. 4 have been filled. There was a lot of speculation. Originally it would be Dave Allen and Hughie Fury filling out that remaining spot. It's seemingly they want to fill that last spot out with a heavyweight fight, and Dillian Whyte, who controls the card to a large extent, being the headliner in control of the budget as well, he manages Alen Babic, so Babic could be on that card. Be interesting to see who they can get him in with. Babic at the moment just 3-0, probably not going to be someone fantastic, but a guy like Tom Little, at least if he had fought him, Little is a name of sorts. You can kind of get a bit of a read on his level, but perhaps another option, and this was suggested by a couple of people on Twitter after I did post this to my Twitter, that Kamil Sokolowski, who has proven to be the prospect killer in recent years, perhaps he would be a guy that would be a good fit for that fight, especially at the level that Babic is operating at. And I think that's quite a good suggestion. The 6'9" Christian Thun has posted to social media that his fight with Jason Bergman, which had been scheduled for later this month, has been postponed. And I did check on BoxRec and it says it is scheduled for mid-August. But Christian Thun says, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. And he's been sparring with Lenroy Thomas. Actually, a number of posts that have been with Thomas in recent weeks. And he continues, the fight has unfortunately been postponed due to the virus. New date, TBA, ASAP. And Christian Thun, he's an interesting talent because, not many guys with that 6'9" height. As we know, there's only a few guys really operating at a good level in the heavyweight division at that sort of height. It'd be interesting to see his development. This fight with Jason Bergman, if it can come off, is a good sort of a litmus test. Bergman has been in there with a number of good heavyweights, and Thun, this was a step-up fight of sorts for him, having fought lower-level opposition to date. But I was looking forward to seeing that later this month, but I guess we shall wait with a lot of things happening right now due to the pandemic. And Robert Helenius, just rounding up this heavyweight news mashup video, he's again been training with Iceland's only heavyweight, Gunnar Kolbienn Kristinsson. Obviously living in a similar area of the world together, it makes sense for them to come together for some sparring sessions, and not for the first time. Helenius is due to return at some point this year, or expected to. That's a signal that his manager had given out online. Seemingly he's going to return on a PBC card. A number of PBC guys have been mentioned, the likes of Andy Ruiz, Luis Ortiz, Charles Martin, and even a potential Adam Kownacki rematch. That is certainly something that Kownacki wants. So we'll see what happens there for Robert Helenius, the WBA Gold Champion. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.